Hey everyone, Nick here. I've got, I guess the final update video for you on the Bandit project that I've been working on for the last year or two. And yeah, I'm pretty much just here to tell you guys that I'm kind of just giving up on this car. And in this video, I'll sort of be talking about, what led to that and what I'm driving now and sort of maybe what you can expect from the future of this channel. So yeah, let's get into it. All right, so I guess this might be a bit of a surprise to you guys. You probably might not have seen this coming, but if you've been racing with me in person, you probably saw this build up over a long period of time, especially this summer. I've just had issues with this car that I continue to have, and it's just been a frustrating experience. So one of those main issues that I've been having, and it was kind of a self-inflicted, shot myself in the foot on this one. But in past videos, you've heard me say that I just use PLA for, everything on this car, and including the transmission case. And while it's been a tough enough material that it doesn't break and crashes or anything like that, what I did not realize, and this is my shortcomings as not being a mechanical engineer, was not fully understanding the thermal properties of plastics and how they can affect performance and reliability of a part. And so basically, right on the inside of the transmission here, you've got straight cut gears. And straight cut gears, well, any gears, but straight cut gears especially, generate heat. And what was happening is that over time, that heat was building up in the gearbox, and it was transferring into the idler gear shafts, and those idler gear shafts would slowly, over time, melt the transmission case on the inside. And it wasn't so severe that it was noticeable, but eventually what would happen is it would melt enough that the whole idler gear would move out of place and stop making contact with the rest of the gears, thus killing the car on the track. And this is a problem that I've actually been dealing with the whole life of the project, but it was never too bad before. So when I first started running this, I was running a much milder motor in it. And the lower amount of power in the motor meant that I wasn't generating as much heat in the gearbox. And that meant I only had that issue one, maybe two times an entire season of racing. Well, this year I bought myself a brand new motor to throw into this thing, a modified motor. And it's not even that hot of a mod motor. It was a modern 10.5 turn motor. And that was enough power that almost on a near weekly basis, I was melting the gearbox in this. And it took me, I suppose, an embarrassingly long amount of time to realize that, I can't prevent the heat from being generated in the gearbox. The only way to get around it is to pick a material that would be more able to sustain or bear those temperatures in the gearbox. And that's what I did. So I switched to ASA, which I had a roll of ASA. And this stuff has a much higher temperature tolerance. Specifically, when you want to look at thermal properties of filaments, don't look at glass transition temperature. It's not that meaningful of a specification. You want to look at heat deflection temperature, which is a measure of how much load a material can withstand while it's being heated. And so, even if you look at, say, the glass transition temperature of PLA and it's somewhere around 50 C, and maybe like nylon or ASA or something like that might be somewhere in like the 75, 85 C range, that might not look like a big difference if you're looking just at that glass transition temperature. But when you look at the heat deflection temperature, it's that tells the real story, right? Where the PLA has a really low heat deflection temperature, but those other materials I mentioned, they have significantly higher heat deflection temperatures. So when those plastics are under load and they're being heated, right, they can withstand that heat and that load much more than PLA can. But, if that was the only problem, I fixed that now, right? So that wouldn't be what would frustrate me to kill this project. Another issue that you've seen me talk about on this channel, right, are these rear arm mounts and the way that they can wiggle around and change the toe in, in the middle of a run. And initially, right? You saw me create a little printed insert to go under the transmission case, and that little printed insert gave extra meat for the screws to, you know, engage with to try to prevent those wheels or those arms from flopping around. That print wore out pretty quickly. So then I went to a CNC cut carbon fiber piece, thinking that was going to solve the problem permanently. But it didn't. Eventually that CNC, or that carbon fiber piece actually slopped out of it too. So I finally moved to a aluminum piece here, and while that does seem to be holding up much better, I don't know, it's still like these arms still wiggle around just a little too much, and it's just something that I don't think I'll ever be able to solve with the filaments and the materials that I have on hand. But again, even if that was the only thing, right, I would probably be able to deal with that if I could, you know, find a material that worked. Really, the reason why I decided to quit the project and switch to a regular car is that I just could not get the performance on the track out of this thing to keep up with the guys in front. It simply comes down to that. You've probably heard me say this before in other videos too, right? Where I talk about not being able to get enough steering out of the car. The car feels like it's sluggish. It feels like it wants to push. And no matter what I've been able to do this summer, right, this car just wants to push. There's nothing I could do to get more steering out of it. I couldn't get any more initial steering. I couldn't get any mid-corner steering or exit steering. And it was just slowing me down massively. I could not carry the corner speed that, you know, my T3 that I showed you in my last video, right? That thing carried a ton of corner speed. Well, you know, I couldn't get this thing to turn at all. And if I drove the T3 on the track and got used to how that felt, and then I took this back out on the track to drive this, you know, the steering input that would get the T3 the whole way around the turn would just like make this car just go completely straight through the turn. And that's when I started to realize that, you know, this car is just holding me back and I cannot be competitive with it. And it's sort of unfortunate to say that and admit that, because I spent so much time on this car and I really wanted to get, you know, this car as fast as I could. And I think I did accomplish that goal. I just don't think that this car has the speed in it that it needs in order to keep up with modern cars. And I think maybe a large part of that is just the steering geometry of this thing. You know, it's got these really short suspension arms. When you compare that to like a modern buggy, right? Modern buggies have much narrower pivot widths up front and in the rear. They've got much longer suspension arms, and they've got completely different steering geometries. And I think that's a lot of it. So I don't think I could get this thing to drive on the track the way I want to without completely making it a different car. And at that point, if it's not a Bandit anymore, then I don't want to deal with the hassle and the frustration of all the rest of these Traxxas parts, because that's another big issue with me, is the Traxxas parts on this thing and the Traxxas heritage, or the Traxxas DNA in this thing is some of the most frustrating parts of this car. And, you know, if I'm going to change it to a completely different car, I'm going to start off with something much better as a starting point for a car. Maybe like the Team Associated RB10. You know, when I started this project years and years ago, honestly, the Traxxas two-wheel drives were the cheapest, easiest platform to get into budget two-wheel drive racing. And now that Associated has their RB10 line that they've been producing and supporting for, you know, a good couple of years now, right? That to me is the better starting point for a project like this. And, you know, not only do you get better quality components to start with, you get, you know, 30 years of design advancement in a buggy to start with. So yeah, that's kind of it for this car. Those are the reasons why I'm done with it. And I guess I'll talk quickly about what I'm driving now and what you can expect from the channel going forward. All right, so this is what I have right now. This is an RC10 B6.4D. I have this because I was able to find it used for really cheap, honestly. And I've raced this a couple times, and it is fantastic. This thing, just throwing it on the track the very first time, I was maybe half a second per lap faster with this, just going to this car. And as I've improved the setup and gotten it to where I like it, it's only gotten better. The first race out with this, I won. And the second race out with this, I TQ'd the first round, I hot lapped the second round, and I got second overall in the main. And that was beating some guys who I just have not been able to beat all summer long with the Bandit. So, you know, I'm incredibly happy with how this has been working out so far. And it's a frustration-free car. There's nothing about this that I have to make work. There's nothing about this where I'm constantly fixing issues. It just, you know, I show up, I know it's gonna work, I throw it on the track and it works. And there's no worry, there's no like, you know, do I have the parts, do I not have the parts? It just takes a mental load off of, you know, me, and I can just go to the track and enjoy driving. And I couldn't do that with the Bandit. So this is what I'm running now. Yeah. And as for the future of the channel, I'll probably still be making videos, right? There's lots of ideas that I have for videos I want to make. Some of it relating to gear reviews, some of it maybe I'll start a new project. And that's the other thing, right? I'm the kind of guy that I always like to work on a project. And so even though I'm not going to be working on the Bandit anymore, I still have ideas for a car that I want to design and make. So that might happen at some point in the future too, when I get bored enough of this car. So we'll see. But yeah, so that's about it for now. That's it for the Bandit project. I thank you guys who have followed along with the project from the very beginning. It's been a fun, exciting, and challenging, and then ultimately a frustrating experience, but I still think it was worth it. I'd do it again if I had the opportunity. And yeah, it was great. So for the files that I have, I'm not sure what I'm going to do about them. I'll probably put up on the Printables website what I've got so far. But after that, I mean, I'll probably never touch them again. So, you know, if you guys still, after, you know, me talking trash about that car for the last 10 minutes, if you still want to make your own, go for it. You might have more luck than I do. Or if not, then, you know, that's your call. So anyway, thanks for following along. Thanks for watching this video. Do all the usual YouTube things like comment, share, subscribe, all that stuff, and have a good one.